the words magnetic attraction are coming to me. Magnetic attraction. And maybe it's actually really magnetic subtraction. Who knows what it actually is? And when I say it, and when I say who knows what it actually is, whether it's magnetic attraction or magnetic subtraction, it doesn't have a name. And I certainly don't know what the name for it would be. Actually, no one knows what the name for it would be. What's being expressed, what I'm expressing, isn't a self-development tool, because there'd have to be a self to develop. And in a sense, there is a self to develop, but that self that apparently develops is just what is happening, appearing as the world, appearing as you and me, appearing as development, whatever development means. Magnetic attraction to who you are, magnetic subtraction to who you are. You know, magnetic attraction, at least when I hear those words, it almost feels as though there's something that's going to happen, like things are going to come to me. Or magnetic subtraction, all that I'm not, all the things that I'm not, all the thoughts, the emotions, the things that I mistakenly believe myself to be in totality, the mind-body. Magnetic subtraction would be sort of like a, God, magnetic subtraction. That one's more hard to picture, but it would be something, I guess, like, it's hard, right? Because it's like if everything's falling away, it doesn't feel like it's magnetizing to anything, but I guess that fits because there's no thing for it to be magnetizing to. So although this could sound like, you know, there's my awareness that, or my thoughts, that in the recent past and over the past few years, I can understand or appreciate how other people, apparently other people, we're just going to say other people for sake of conversation, might think that this is some ideology. And as far as I have experienced, it's not. There's just what is. I met with my sister yesterday, and she is very involved in greater Cleveland, downtown Cleveland, developing, getting equal housing opportunities for a diversity of people. This is what she does. People that have less less resources, she helps to do her part in, that's largely what her life has been dedicated to, which is being of service to those that have been underserved. And she was asking me what the utility is. How does what I'm sharing, or what I share in, how is that helpful? How is it pragmatic? And it was really hard to put words to that, because this that is being shared right now, what I'm sharing, is totally and completely useless. Totally useless. And yet, the most useful thing that I have ever experienced, or I really should say that I haven't experienced. And I'm like thinking this through, and I want to do that out loud here with you, in reflecting on this conversation that I had with my sister. It's within the story, any story of our lives, of the worst pain and suffering, and the worst segregation, racism, genocide, and everything fits into this. So I named specifically cultural traumas that have been inflicted on individuals, but also on entire societies, because the trauma is being inflicted by both the victim and the perpetrator. They're both victims to this, if anyone's creating apparent suffering. But all situations fit into this. That's why I began by saying within the story. Within the apparent story for Christopher and his life, the apparent story for you and your life, anything that happens to you, or anything that you affect, this is all in the story. So all of her questions, I would answer that this is completely useless. In a way, this is completely useless on the level of the story. Because here's the thing, on the level of the story, this doesn't matter, because this is just saying whatever is, essentially, and what is not, is not. And so it doesn't necessarily change anything, because it's not in the level. This is the foreground of which the story arises, and ultimately, actually, it is the entire story itself too. So it can sound kind of complicated, but it's actually really not. And God, please, if there's anyone that could that is in this same kind of inquiry and working through this same sort of thing of articulating and being helpful, or as helpful as one can be with the lived realization of this for no one, please comment and let's dialogue about it. So back to this, there's like 2 or 3 different ideas that I have to articulate around this story, and how this is the background, or the awareness, or the consciousness within this, within which the story arises to, or within the apparent story. So it's helpless, it doesn't. This is not an energy that is interested or disinterested in any change for the better or for the worse. So that's how it's not helpful. But it's not. Neither is it. It's not unhelpful, but it isn't helpful, because it doesn't have a utility in that way. Now, at the very same time, although that is true, there has been nothing in my life that has ever been more helpful in the way that I used to believe in God, being raised as a Catholic, or that probably was part of it, and then I went from having a belief about God, to experiencing that God is everything and nothing at the same time. And it's this, and this is all that there is. And everything is an expression of that unity, whatever. When I say God, the experience is just the unity of everything, of even the apparent separation. And it was like, it has been over the past few years, the most heart-opening, expansive, I can't even put words to it no matter how much I talk about it, experiences, and then lack of experiences that have wound up for me to get to the point of going, this is it. This is all there ever is. This is all that there ever will be. And here we are. and then sharing in this conversation is what that to me is helpful in one very specific way. It's helpful in the specific way that an artist's poetry is helpful, or a painting is helpful, or children playing is helpful. It's for the sake of itself. So it, in and of itself, because it is all that there is. That's the craziest part. Actually, is incredibly helpful. And this is where I'll get into the second part of how I answered her question, which is it's impossible for me to explain this, and I felt that in sharing with her about it. However, I was sharing basically what I shared here in that way. So here's how it's helpful. I do have some beliefs, some thoughts around this, that if more individuals went from, it appears to me that there are at least, there's some amount of individuals, I don't know, and I'm saying some, maybe 50%, maybe more, maybe less, I don't know what the exact number is, who do feel separate, who don't feel they've had an experience of God, or what I'm saying basically would make very little or no sense at all. Almost everything that I'm saying, and would make no sense. Now, if those apparently separate individuals, people, which I think there was a time when I would have heard at least a lot of this or some of this and it wouldn't have made sense to me, if they can have an experience of it, then we would live in a better world. This is really where I start to hesitate. Because then it would mean, okay, well then what's the practice, or how? Is it meditation? Is it plant medicine? Is it educating children in mindfulness? Is it making sure that everybody has adequate resources from a very young age? Somehow, how that would happen, I don't exactly know. And I mean, it goes into the whole story, which is valuable to talk about, absolutely, of how to affect or change the world for the better. And what this is saying is that everything just is, which can sound I could see from some perspectives how that could sound sort of, not even abrasive, but disconnected. When the opposite of disconnection is what's being expressed or what's being shared. It is the felt connection of all. So then what do? How do you get there, right? How does anybody get there? It's only through the realization that one is already there. And this doesn't mean, here's the thing, I've experienced this. It doesn't mean that there still isn't the appearance of the world, and also the appearance of the mind and body, the apparently separate mind and body of Christopher, who has endured X, Y, and Z traumas, we're going to call them traumas, that are patterns that continue to play out in the apparent world. The idea, if I'm going to just say it succinctly, is that if more people knew about this, I have the suspicion that we would live in a much more peaceful world. We would live in a happier world where people know that their true state is that of peace and happiness. And if more people knew that, and when I say knew that, I don't mean intellectually, but I do mean fully felt that, to know that that is the nature of their being in whatever way. And there's so many ways, there are infinite ways. There's not a limit on the amount of ways that one can have access to that. I think it would be much less likely that anyone would hurt anyone or stab any. How could I stab someone else? How could I be dishonest with someone else if I'm only being dishonest with myself? If I'm only stabbing myself, if I'm only hurting myself, why would I ever want to do that? And that's when we have an opportunity to get really honest with ourselves, to say, wow, I have apparently hurt myself. I have apparently had the hate in me, apparently, that there were others that I was then hating. Why would I ever want to hate myself? Why would I ever want to hurt myself? Why would I ever want to see myself go hungry? Why would I ever want to be sad about myself when all I am is peace and love and joy and happiness and unity? And And so this is the conclusion that I come to after this conversation with my sister, is that I help in the way that I help. I serve in the way that I serve. I give my life to what I create the meaning. What I give my life to, that which has the most meaning and most fucking love and joy and passion, and that's this. Said another way, I just love this. And this and that can be seen. It can be seen. I could see how in some eyes that could be seen as deeply hedonistic. However, I think it's I don't see what is a more worthy thing to dedicate one's lives to than that which fully and totally is, I mean, not only is it that what I love most, but it is that which is also endlessly fascinating, and that which I feel could help the maximum amount of apparently separate individuals, including the apparently separate individual of me, because separation is the cause of suffering. And there could be all of these, right? You know, the well, that's self-righteous, or that's, who are you to, who am I not to? Who am I not to? Who are you not to? Wow. All right. Well, I had no idea that this was going to go where it went, but I'm grateful that it did. Because these are things that, these are things that I really, this is what I've really given my life fully to. Not like really fully. My work, everything revolves around pointing at this. And when it comes to how this is practical, how is non-duality or consciousness or the real, it is the most practical thing. There's nothing that could be, and that's the thing. This is where optimization can get in the way. When I say that it's the most practical thing, I'm not saying what is not being said is, well, then everyone should put their attention on this. Everyone should go to courses on this. Everyone should sit in meditation. Everyone should go on plant meditation. No. That would be this something called optimization, right? Where it's like, oh, well, if that's the thing, then that's the thing. That no. I'm not saying that. It's been the most practical thing for me. And because of that, it makes sense for me to share it and to open up spaces where others, there are no others, where we can come together and recognize and remember that this already is what we are. And for those that are called, they're called, and those that aren't are not. And that is perfect. That's absolutely perfect. And everyone is called to whatever it is that they're called to, and it's exactly what it's supposed to be, because it is what it is. And that can sometimes be very challenging. That could be apparently very challenging, and that could be apparently very celebratory. It can appear as anything. So as you can see, these are things I'm really working through in a way where does non-duality and consciousness, and I could sit and I could do meditations and have the conversations, and realizations are had, which are always very fulfilling for me, and it appears for others too when we connect in that way. And I'm looking at the intersection between the fundamental nature of reality, of everyone's nature being that of peace and happiness, and the fact that we apparently live in a world where there's suffering, there's pain, there's trauma, there's individual trauma, there's collective trauma, and the union of that which appears as two being one. That's what non-duality means, right? This must fit into that, because this is not any different than that. This is the framework, the background upon which the entire trauma and story and suffering and pain and happiness and pleasure and gain and all of that, this is the background upon which it appears, and ultimately it's all the same thing apparently appearing as differences. And where these two come together, because they are, and how they relate, and how we can can work to heal and live a more happy, fulfilled life. There's nothing that I'm just endlessly in love with serving in that way towards this. So not to say that we're gonna well, actually, what's going to be explored this Saturday is a living non-duality meeting, and that's at 11:11 Eastern time. There's a Zoom link for it. The Zoom link's set to 11:10. I don't know if I can change the minute, but so 11:11 in 2 days, every Saturday in between now and the end of the year, we'll be having like a contemplation, a meditation. There will be some words I'll share, and then there'll be a dialogue. We'll be able to talk, because it'll be on Zoom, about living in accordance with our true nature, which is of peace and of happiness and of freedom. So if this seemed more maybe intellectual, which in some ways it was, right, because of the nature of how what I was talking about, the meeting is going to be more, I even hesitate to say more, right, but experiential, the experience for no one. The fact that non-duality and the realization of our true nature is completely and entirely useless, because nothing actually changes, and it doesn't happen to anyone. It's not a moment of enlightenment, or and sometimes it can appear as that, and there might be such a big energy and resonance, but all of those things are in the story. So we'll talk about how it's completely useless because it already is, and we'll be in that, no different than us being in this as we are now. And it's entirely useful because it's, well, because it's already that which we are. So actually, this is the best way to say it. This is completely useless because there's nothing to get to. Like, there's no, I said to my sister yesterday, a step towards it would be a step away from it. Rupert Spira, another a teacher of non-duality and writer, says something like that. Because a step towards it would be, in essence, a step away from it. Or in the words of St. Francis, what we're looking for is what is looking, or what we're longing, what we're desiring for is the exact union with the sight that we already have. So, in short, it's a half-hour video here. It's entirely useless because it's already the nature of who and what we are. So we can't get there, and it's entirely useful because it's already who and what we already are. We're hopeless to get anywhere because we are already that. And this is the really beautiful part. That doesn't mean, oh, well, then just go meditate in the Himalayas, or go teach this, or even share this message. It doesn't mean that. It just means then you continue to do, because this is already the way it is, whatever is most natural for you. But there's a natural detachment from a goal or from an attainment, because there's the known realization that we're hopeless to get there because we're already there, and there's nowhere to get to. And then so we do whatever feels most natural, whether that's being involved in the work that my sister's in, whether it's me expressing this, whether it's the tree waving in the wind, whether it's anything. We just do it. We're just doing it, and there's not. The reality is there's not an attachment to the outcome, because there's not that one that's there doing the thing that we think that one is doing. All right, so yeah, this Saturday, it's donation based. If you come and you feel that you've received some value from the discussion, or no value at all, especially if you receive no value at all, you're free to support this and me in that way. And it'll be about 90 minutes, approximately 90 minutes. I will put the link in the description to this video. It's also on my Instagram bio, so it will have a bit of a different flavor or resonance than this video did. I'll probably speak much shorter, just for a few moments at the beginning, and then we'll go into a dialogue of what it means to knowingly be who we really are, which is everything and nothing, and peace and happiness, and already home, exactly where we are. So thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing your space and your time with me, whatever it is that you're up to today. The fact that you sat here with me, and let me know, please, if you had some sort of realizations, or even if especially if you saw something that could support me in either the articulation of this or connecting some of the dots to what I'm talking about. Because to go into the story level and see how this fits in, it takes all of us to do something like that. So I look forward to seeing you on Saturday. Peace. May the peace and the love that you are be with you. That sounded religious, didn't it? I got that. Peace and love.